Joining me now is Lincoln Mitchell, a political analyst at Columbia University. Lincoln, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
This is the home stretch. It's the last couple of days, and the focus is on those swing states. Can they still make a difference in those states by showing up on these last 2 days?
They can, because the margin is so small. I mean, I'm here in Wisconsin, which of course is a very important swing state, and just talking to organizers here, I mean, they're talking about, double digit numbers. If one candidate can reach, nine or 12 people today, these states are so close that yes, it absolutely can make a difference. And, in a campaign, any close campaign, you have to do everything, and you kind of have to do everything all the time, especially in the last, 72 hours, however many it is. So yes, they absolutely can make a difference. And both candidates are doing, in my view, the right thing. They have to be out there.
Now,
time is the most important resource. The candidate's time is the most important resource.
Now we're seeing the public faces. What's going on behind the scenes with them right now with their two campaigns?
Well, I think behind the scenes, in a way that we're not going to see publicly, they might be saying, each candidate might be saying, there are these 7 swing states, but for us, we're going to write off this one. Maybe, I'm just saying this, I don't have any data, but maybe the Trump campaign is saying, at the end of the day, we can't win Michigan, so we're going to pull our resources from there. Even within those states, most of these decisions now are field, right? So if you're the Harris campaign, you noticed in your intro, you said she'd be in Detroit today. So maybe they're going to move people into Michigan from other parts of Michigan to Detroit because that's such a vote-rich area, and perhaps their field operation isn't strong enough there. So, I mean, that kind of real granular stuff, because the messaging is done. They're not crafting new television ads. Kamala Harris made that kind of surprise visit to Saturday Night Live, but I don't expect too much of that. The speeches will be basically the same. They're not going to introduce new ideas. They're just going to try to really refine the field operation.
And they must be exhausted by now, too.
I was just thinking about this last night. Yes, they must be completely exhausted. I mean, to some extent, they have some support, right? They fly on private jets. They don't have to, wash their own dishes or do any of the kind of quotidian things that all of us do to make it through the day, but they're still exhausted. And, Donald Trump is an old man. I mean, in plain English, he's 78 years old. He's not in great physical shape. So I suspect he's very exhausted. And when he's exhausted, he gets angrier and grumpier. And that's not great going into the last few hours. This is so close that Donald Trump lashing out. I mean, it was the intro there, somebody suggested the vice president of the United States is a prostitute or was a prostitute. And Trump kind of lauded that. And that's not something, at the end of the day, that may move just a few more women voters into Harris's column. So the lack of sleep has always been an issue for Trump.
And with those final few voters, is there really anybody left who hasn't made up their mind?
Yes, there really is. I've spoken to maybe a dozen undecided voters here in Wisconsin in a swing state. And in my sense, they fall into 2 categories. One, as you might expect, or you probably expect both, Republicans who just can't stand Trump. Mm-hmm. And they're close to voting for Harris, but they're not 100% there yet. And the second category is people who are paying so little attention to politics that they have to be reminded the election is Tuesday. Now, I suspect the latter category, those people, many of them just simply won't vote. If at this point you're not dialed in enough, but if you're really agonizing over it, as some of these voters are in the former category, they will likely continue to agonize over it, until Tuesday morning. And there's a third category, which are not quite undecided, which I've talked to a few older Republican women who are with Harris, but they've already made that decision.
Okay. Lincoln, thank you very much. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you. My pleasure.